Well, it's funny you brought up the other story because I tell this story a lot about you, actually. I go, my boy Ryan Dalton, he lived with me for like 3 months. We'd hang out every day, all day. And then one day we're hiking at Runyon, and we're on the backside of Runyon. And then he just told me the most fucking incredible story. And I remember that's the one time I was mad at you. I was like, we've lived together for like 3 months, and you've been holding out on this story. Do you even remember that? I remember right where we were at. We were like on that backside of Runyon where no one goes, and I was like, wait a minute. And
that was the second time I saw you irritated with me.
Yeah, I was like,
because you were like, I've lived with you, and all you have is boring stuff to say. You never say anything good, and you finally come up with a doozy of a story like this. Like, why didn't you ever lead with this?
Yeah, I was like, you should have the second you walked into my house. So yeah, tell that story. So it was Steve Byrne who you started doing comedy with, and one of your close friends, right?
Yeah.
And
well, Steve Byrne, had gotten married, and he's about to get married, and I couldn't go. I couldn't go to the wedding because I had a gig, but I could go. I could pick between one or two things. So I went to the bachelor party. I was like, fine, I'll go do that. We just bought a house, and like we'd like really, really gone at it. I was working at it. We finally, my wife was like, just go to the bachelor party. So I did. And so, like, I fly out. It's in Pensacola, like Floribama, that area. Where out Florida and Alabama, right on the border. And it was there. And so I flew out there, and I had a connecting flight. I lose my carry-on luggage in the connection to the second flight. Somebody had grabbed my bag off the airplane, off the overhead bin, and walked away with it, thinking it was there. So there goes all of my clothes. I'm wearing like distressed jeans and dress shoes and like a black t-shirt and then whatever I have in my backpack. And that's all I have for a whole weekend because somebody has stolen my luggage out from underneath me. So I show up in Alabama finally. And then like I get in there, I walk into where this dining room is, and it's with my buddy Steve, and he's like really good friends with like Vince Vaughn and Peter Billingsley, and then a bunch of other comics. And I was like, I'm a guy from Cleveland. Like, I don't hang out with. I was coming from Cleveland, and I woke in the room and I see this, like Vince Vaughn. I'm like, oh my god, like this is great, and this is nuts. And there's also like a pro hockey player there from like the Blackhawks. They literally had just won a championship the year before. I'm like, what is going on? What kind of weird meeting is this right now? And then we go out to a bar, and it was just crazy because I'd never been with a A-list celebrity ever. And it's just like we walk into a bar and we just sit down at a table, and it was like, and then you knew it was going to happen. So people were just going to notice him and like beg him for pictures and stuff. And then finally the bar took notice, and then all of a sudden this operation takes place where we were just sitting at any table, and they take us upstairs, and they make a bunker for us. Like, we're talking about tubs of booze. Just tubs and tubs of booze. And then, like, in this bar, there's, like, cutbacks, like, at a security checkpoint on a military base. And you had to have, like, our T-shirts, these stupid bachelor party T-shirts, to gain entrance into this place.
Wait, you guys all wore the same shirt? Like, even Vince Vaughn and everybody?
Yeah, he had them made up. So we're in there, and those were our tickets into anything. And it's like, you just see the attention somebody gets at that level. And it was just amazing. Because there was just a line of people trying to get it back there with us. And it was nuts.
Well, he was huge. I mean, he's still famous, but at that time, he was fucking huge. Was he single?
No, I think he, I don't know. Honestly, I can't remember if he was or not. So I can't say he was. I can't say he was. No, I don't know. He might've been, I'm not sure. But, all I know, he was this area was well protected by the bar. I mean, there was like 5 different bouncers. This line of people was trying to get past. It was insanity. And we get super hammered, that night, or at least I did. And then the next day, first thing in the morning, we got to go deep sea fishing, which I knew was a horrible idea because these people, there's no way they were ready for it. And we go out there.
Well, you don't have any clothes though, right?
Yeah, I'm still wearing the same clothes I was wearing the night before. Like everybody else is dressed for they got their shorts and like little short sleeve button downs. And here I am wearing club gear, clomping around in my oversized dress shoes. and I'm on this boat, and these guys, I'm also still drunk. I gotta be still drunk. It was such a rough night. And then they all of a sudden they start getting seasick and going like one by one slowly. They start petering into the boat, and I'm like, I can't believe these fucking guys, man. This is ridiculous. And so they start casting these fish off the front of the boat, and I'm just like, I see them. I keep looking back in. They're all laying down, like they're all miserable. And then all of a sudden, like they catch a fish, and then I'm like, let me try some of that sushi. And like, you would eat this right now. And this thing had just been alive. And I brought the fish meat in, and I'm just eating it at the door. I'm like, what are you guys doing? And they're just like, no, what? I was like, look at you. You're so weak. I was like, is this a baby shower? I thought this was a bachelor party. Are we going to open gifts next? Is that what we're going to do? And Vince is laughing, so I can see I was entertaining him.
Uh-huh.
And then at one point he came out and he just started hanging out with me because I was like the only person who was awake, which is weird because I was sitting here just on this boat talking to him about stuff, you know. Well, anyway, we get back from that and everybody takes a nap, has some drinks. So then we're going to go play sports. There's like a whole thing. So we're going to play sports on the beach. First thing was like stand football. And I suck at sports, dude. I mean, I know it's hard to believe. I look like an athlete. I look like, you know, I look like a starting quarterback, at least in Division 1A football, you know. But I'm not good. And so, like, we divvy up teams, and, like, Vince is definitely competitive. Like, when he wins, he won't let you hear the end of it. He's like that. He just won't shut up about it. And so I'm on his team, and I'm like, oh, no. This is bad because I fucking suck at playing quarterback anything. I'm slow. I'm not good. I'm not going to catch anything. So I get the hockey player and I get Vince, and we start going, and like they're kicking our ass at first, and then all of a sudden I'm nailing people on the run. I'm hitting people in the slot. I mean, and then I hit for the winning touchdown. I played for the height, and I throw a bomb into the end zone, and right where only Vince could get it. But the thing is, I don't know how to do that. I was just doing it at will. I'm like, what is happening right now that I'm planning these fucking throws right in the hands? Like, man, I was a man possessed. And then afterwards, like, he rubbed it in so bad that afterwards, like, we were just sitting around this table, and he was like, he starts doing a fake press conference about the win, about our win over them. And he's relentless. And then he would go over to me. I was sitting next to him. They're like, well, we got to talk to our star quarterback. I was like, what do you think about the win, Ryan? I was like, well, it's no secret, Vince. Excellence plus teamwork equals championships. I think everybody knows that. It's not special math. That's enough out of you. And then you come back to him. And then we played sand volleyball, and it was like we were the same team. And then this time, I'm like, I suck at that too. Like, I'm no good at this stuff. But dude, it was like a scene out of Top Gun, except everybody was a little heftier, and we just dominated the other team.
Well, Vince is big. He's big, right? He's probably bigger.
Oh yeah, he was protecting the net. Oh, dude, he's huge. He's enormous. And then later on that night, we're like, hey, I hear the Beach Boys are in town. So we're like, yeah, let's go. Why not see the Beach Boys? And then just because he's him, we just walk backstage and get into this Beach Boys concert. Like, they just called ahead and they said, yeah, this guy would like to go to the Beach Boys concert. And they're like, okay, sure, we'll just let you in, you know?
That's power.
And we were there. We were like in our own private space watching them. And they had 3 hours of hits. They're the Beach Boys.
Yeah,
like
great.
3 hours of hits. And then afterwards, John Stamos is on the drums because he plays with the Beach Boys. We're hanging out with him after the show. I know, it's nuts. And then the next day we went ski shooting, so there's just a lot of shit talking. It was the first time I'd seen basically how a lister gets treated, and it was just incredible to witness all of that, you know?
Yeah, of course. I can't even imagine. Especially if, well, I mean, I love your wife. She's awesome. But if you're ever going to be single, those are two pretty good wingmen, Vince Vaughn and John Stamos.
Oh, I know.
And a hockey guy. I don't even know. You don't even remember who the hockey guy was?
I can't remember his name. I mean, this kid was like 24, and he'd just come off the Stanley Cup win like that year. I was like, that's pretty incredible.
It's so.
But I also learned something.
What's that?
I also learned something that I applied to. The story continues. So
Oh.
I'm on this trip, and there was a comic by the name of Ahmed Ahmed there. And Ahmed Ahmed, back in the single days, Ahmed Ahmed and Vince and Peter, they used to like hang out together like all the time. They were like kind of like an entourage deal. And at like many years ago, this is back when I was like I just graduated college. I was like a waiter, and this girl, I started dating her, and everything was going great. And then she went on a family vacation, and she came back, and then she dumped me, you know? And I'm like, what? And I'm like, I guess. And it was like, I thought it was going well. And then like, we were still work together. And then later on, she was like talking to other people about this trip she went on. And she was in Arizona, and then she was at this resort with them. And so she basically told the tale about how when she was there, it was Vince, Peter, and Ahmed Ahmed. And I was like, oh no.
Oh no.
And I had a bad feeling. And basically years later, I started talking to Ahmed Ahmed because I figured out they were friends. And then, I mean, he didn't ever confirm or deny it, because if you roll with that kind of posse, I'm sure you've had a lot of adventures at one point, you know? But basically, he couldn't confirm or deny, but I'm 90% sure he totally hooked up with the girl I was dating, and that's why she was like, I gotta dump this guy.
That Ahmed did?
Yeah. I'm not mad about it, but the story continues because I ran into that girl in December. And then she was all like, she was drunk. She had 2 kids, she was drunk, and then she was getting a little flirty.
Uh-huh.
And I'm like, you guys, like, what are you doing? Like, you're being a little... So at one point I finally said, hey, remember when you broke up with me? She goes, oh my God, that was the worst. And I go, it's not that bad. It's just like, you know who I'm really good friends with now? And I said the words Ahmed Ahmed, and her eyes, they grew like the size of saucers. Like, she was like, oh my God, I can't believe you found it out. I was like, but, and she was like, I'm sorry, that was the worst. I'm like, you don't have to say anything. It's not a big deal. 20 years later, nobody cares. But anyway, you remember when you guys hooked up, right? And I kept coming back to it to let her know, just know. I'm like, I mean, that's something you don't want to bring back up. It's been like how many? It was 20 years ago. Who cares?
Yeah, it would have been cooler if it was Vince, but Ahmed.
Yeah.
That's Ahmed, though. He's relentless. Didn't Ahmed... And then Ahmed ended up staying with you for a while. I don't even know if you want to tell this story.
He did.
But didn't you eventually have to leave because he was like bringing girls home and they were climbing over the fences and shit? Do I not remember that story? Because I remember it was your house is like a fortress to get in. You have the coolest house in the middle of Hollywood, but it's all gated. And I thought you told me a story, and maybe I'm remembering it wrong. But wasn't he?
No. It's well, Ahmed was staying us for a while because he's in and out of the country. He had like all sorts of business and stuff, so he wasn't around a whole lot. But it was funny because, like, dude, he'd bring some ladies home, you know, and then they'd stay, and then we had control because we have a gate. You know, the reason it's a nice place is there's like an automated gate that keeps the insane heroin addicts at bay. And what would happen is we'd tell them, like, every night, we'd stay up super late and go out and party with them too. We were raging. Ashley and I were raging after we first got here. So we would stay up super late, but we'd tell them at the end of the night, like, hey, if you need to get out, the keys are on the wall, push the button, gate opens, whatever. Especially if there was a girl over. And he would never wake up in time and never prepare. So these girls had to escape from Dannemora, like, twice. I mean, dude, and that fence is precarious. There's no good way to jump over it. And they're hopping over spikes. Like, these girls are like escaping Alcatraz. We used to call it escape from a Metatraz. And he's like, what? I don't remember the keys. I'm like, Ahmed, the keys are right there. You should have just opened the gate. They didn't have to risk their lives.
You know, shit. Climbing over those fences in like a skirt and high heels and shit.
Yeah.
That would have been your reality show. You should have pitched that shit to Fox right there. Watch the ultimate walk of shame from a Metatraz. Well, so wait, when you're meeting Vince, you knew you were going to meet Vince. Were you nervous to meet Vince or no?
Yeah, of course. I mean, I was just a road comic from, and I'd only heard about stuff through Steve, because Steve, like, lived in New York, he lived in L.A. He told me, he's like, you're not going to believe this, but I've developed a friendship with this guy Vince Vaughn. And it's like, I'm like, wait, the Vince Vaughn? You know, I'm like, this is nuts. You guys are buddies? That's crazy. And then, like, I hear stories through him when I was working with him, but this is the first time I was going to actually have contact with this guy, you know?
Yeah.
So I was like, I was definitely nervous. I'm like, what do I say? Do I act normal? Like, I knew it was like a different level of person, you know?
But I'm so glad he was. I would have been so disappointed if he wasn't cool. He seems like he's the coolest. Who?
It was super funny.
Who have you met that made you the most nervous? Was it Vince?
Yeah, I think Vince, definitely, because he's definitely like the most, I guess, say famous person I've met. But actually, I've met famous people by shaking their hand, but I've never hung out with them, you know, ad nauseum. I did a script reading for Steve's movie, and I was sitting right next to him. I was still nervous. I'm like, it's like, dude, you're like famous, you know? I'm not nervous to the point where I'm looking at the ground, but you are aware of it. And after a period of time, it kind of wears off.